What is acceptance? Acceptance is making an incredibly nuanced video for about 25 minutes and then realizing you didn't click the record button, something I've done multiple times. That feeling you feel in that second when you acknowledge it, at the end you go, I've just finished it, I'm just going to upload it and it's gone. And then thinking of all the things you thought about and you were content with the video and it's lost. In a second, you notice frustration, not chronic anxiety. Why? Because for chronic anxiety, maybe if I was losing all my work about to be deleted for years and years, I would feel that rush of anxiety as you would in that situation, the same as you panic when you've lost your phone and it's not backed up, for example. Now, that sensation is the anxiety cycle, but with OCD, that's locked on 24/7 to a far worse situation in your mind, perhaps going to jail forever or committing an act that you believe solidifies you as a bad human for the rest of your life, the rest of your days, in chronic guilt and anxiety. So where I was starting was the idea of OCD recovery is impossible. Something we all have thought at times when we feel completely mentally locked and barricaded in the chronic guilt and anxiety trap. And this is particularly solidified by themes that you don't see covered much, so you then convince yourself you are the only person. Perhaps you have harm OCD relating to eating meat. Perhaps you are not a vegetarian, you've eaten meat all your life, and then suddenly you decide, oh my God, if I eat meat again, I'm terrible, I'm a bad person, and I should feel guilt and anxiety forever. A nuanced subject not covered much on YouTube due to the obvious backlash you can get in comments due to this topic being misunderstood by most. The individual is not vegetarian, but the OCD presents itself in a way that they need to become immediately vegetarian this second, which a vegetarian would say, some would, that is how I decided to become vegetarian, but that's because they don't understand OCD and the nuances and how it's trying to trap the individual suffering from it. So what it's doing is it's trying to say, we need immediate action this second. Otherwise, if you even just think about this for 1 second and entertain the idea for 1 second, you should feel guilty and anxious for the rest of your days. And it will do that. It will do it to people unsuspectedly in any situation. Maybe they're driving the car and they stop at a zebra crossing and kids walk past and it says, did you stop 1 second ago? Did you acknowledge 1 second ago you were going to stop, or were you continuing? Is that carelessness equal that you are a bad person forever and ever? Maybe the individual with meat eating has suddenly decided they're never eating veal in that second because of the additional harm involved in eating veal, and so they're now avoiding veal constantly. And then their family back that up by, yes, I can understand your decisions. We had a cousin who went vegetarian, so on, not understanding how OCD is at play there. OCD is very subtle and sneaky. Themes like POCD, harm OCD can be very hard to understand, particularly for those of the people around you, especially if it's got into a venting nature, where you're suddenly reeling off all the things you did in the past that never bothered you, but now have become the most important factor in your whole life, and you think you're never going to get that cycle to end. And now you're deep into Reddit posts looking at people with the exact same thoughts that are showing the same level of hopelessness, and everyone's going one trap after another down a tunnel, and anyone who recovers from it doesn't post on there anymore, so you've just got a vicious doom cycle. You don't meet many people who are like, I spent 6 hours on Reddit today and I feel empowered and mentally free. You find people that are going from post to post, user to user, checking the timeline. They're still alive. When did they think this? And then comparing that to make sure that they can then work out some kind of odds of them being free from OCD, the same as the health OCD sufferer goes through stats of looking at graphs of when do you develop a certain illness and what is the probability, then working it out to their own stats and then trying to get calmer and calmer, where OCD doesn't give a shit. If the risk is 0.01, it will have you fixated on the 0.01 and all the symptoms in the 0.01 you now have. So it's very important to be aware of that sort of subtle nature of OCD's traps. That's what makes it feel impossible. That's why the average OCD therapist doesn't understand it. And if you went to 20, 30 of them, you're getting about the same level of information. That is why most specialists do not understand it in the depth of long-term recovery from chronic severe OCD, and it becomes a compulsive cycle of doing exposures and exposures and exposures, one after the other, in a desperate sequence of frustration, even though they will say don't do it compulsively, not understanding that because there is not a level of freedom building towards the end, and OCD is morphing and positioning itself around to make the elusive freedom that you're looking for, just OCD moves into a more snug crack in your mind, so that when you're trying to get in there, like, oh my god, OCD just moved to solipsism with existential. Now I've tried those exposure videos, but I still can't get there. Not breaking down the beliefs of fear of losing connection, fear of not being happy again, fear of being not being able to perform tasks in your life that allow you to reach your goals because of that theme, and it's nestled snugly around that. And because that is subtle and difficult and complex to understand, most people then come to the conclusion, when the sufferer has been stuck for a long time, this individual must be so-called treatment resistant, which doesn't exist. The individual always has a feared scenario. I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of people that have come in absolutely convinced that they're treatment resistant after seeing so many specialists over a number of years, and have read so many Reddit posts on treatment resistant. And it's always clear there's a feared scenario. I'm scared of being gay. I'm scared of having cancer. I'm scared of HIV. And that is where OCD is glued. I never see a case of someone, I don't know why I'm scared at all. I'm chronically guilty and anxious all the time. Nothing works at all. And then they're doing compulsions or mental compulsions. It doesn't exist. It's purely because OCD is very nuanced at the chronic severe level, particularly with lots of different themes. And themes don't get spoken about. Like I said, with vegetarian, harm relating to those themes, they don't get discussed on social media because of people will get them misconstrued, and then it becomes a problem, the same as many themes. So what we need to look at is impossible only feels impossible because of the lack of knowledge. If the knowledge was higher, then it wouldn't feel impossible. So like anything, if I go to climb Mount Everest today with no experience, what's my chance of climbing Mount Everest? Pretty low, isn't it? If not zero, pretty close to, right? I wouldn't know where to go, that ice is not going to fall and kill me. I wouldn't know where to go in terms of a crevasse. I wouldn't even have a ladder to cross a crevasse. I wouldn't know about altitude, probably wouldn't have any oxygen with me. So my chances are fraught with impossible, right? Now, when you start building and learning, and then going with Sherpas and doing that over a long period of time and studying it and going with the right people that understand how to navigate that terrain, your chances are going up and up and up and up and up. Up and up and up and up. But the problem is that when it comes to chronic severe OCD, it's clear that it's misunderstood by most for the very reason that the way it's approached, think about how light it sounds. If I just took an OCD channel at random and I went for the broad knowledge that's being said on that channel, it's usually thoughts are silly thoughts, do some exposures, change your perspectives a little bit on a few elements. That's like me going up Everest with a ladder under my arm, a coat that's warm enough for the park in London when it's a bit rainy, and having a guide that's somebody who's climbed 10 sets of stairs in a housing estate in South London. That's not going to be very helpful at all. But that's the reality of it. Because if I looked at myself, how many exposures I did to recover from chronic severe OCD, hundreds. Did I need to do that many? No. I was compulsively chasing at the end because I couldn't get relief, because I was so scared of being a bad person, or scared of staying chronically anxious. The fear of fear, the subtle fear of fear trap. I was nicely screwed and stuck in my mind in then a period of, for many years, of mental rumination that was going on consistently, the same as the individual with chronic pain is going through, where they are mentally repeating, this pain is going to be the worst forever, it's never going, vigilantly watching like a hawk its presence, and then when it's not fading down, then becoming more panicked, or if not panicked, which is another key point, you don't need to be panicked to feel stuck, the backdoor spike of OCD, oh, I'm not anxious, but I still feel bad. I still have the thoughts. Yes, because the belief cycle, the same with the chronic pain. Are you scared of having chronic back pain, it ruining your life forever? Yes. Are you noticing it all the time? Yes. Are you noticing it points of the day? Yes. Are you comparing it to a Reddit post of when you had it and then trying to equate if yours is different and neurological on some deep level that's not going to go? Yes, 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 and yes. That is the reality of it. That's what leads to the impossible sensation in your mind, the feeling that you are never getting out. I felt like that for years. I felt like that every day. From the moment my eyes opened in the morning, I started a fast, hawk-like look at my symptoms, tally them all up and try and be recovered within the next hour so I could get on with my day. A complete disaster that people find themselves in time and time again, because that sequence of events is how we tend to live our life without OCD. I'll wake up, how am I feeling, go and have a coffee, go and have a workout, go to work, whatever. With OCD, that problem solving in that fashion is not working, because you're trying to let yourself out of a problem by doing all the things that keep the problem the problem. So we need to actually develop a new form of thinking that isn't that. Now, it's not just accepting and, oh, I'll accept my symptoms and go on, lumping it. You're learning to see that it's not as scary as you imagine, and you can be at peace with those scenarios and drop that internal control and become more internally willing to whatever you experience. And that's the difference. Lumping, it's like, all right, I'm just going to go on with my day. It's a very subtle difference, and people don't realize they're doing it, and that's where we come in to do that. And that's what we do in the one-to-one sessions, really customizing and looking at why you're specifically stuck, why you've been stuck this number of years, what you're scared of, how we can bring that down and change those perspectives to ease that lock-up effect. And that's what we do. If you want to come in to see us, click the WhatsApp link below, and we will start looking exactly what the problem is. And if you're watching the videos, we've got 3,100 videos on this channel. We try and cover in all the free content as much as we can about the journey for all different themes and situations that people find themselves in. But in the one-to-ones, it's like a very, very different level. It's like if you're trying to repair the car in your own garage with a YouTube video versus going to a garage. Very different, because we're looking at specifically what's fueling the chronic guilt and anxiety that's simmering away in the background. Sometimes people come in and they say, look, I've been to specialist, to therapist, but I'm still anxious, I'm still guilty, and it's still just waxing and waning. Why? Well, those beliefs are there that are causing an emotion, but you've forgotten those beliefs started that emotional sequence, because they're just subtly out of reach, but they're perpetuating that, and that's keeping going. Certainly was for me, especially towards the end of the journey. I was sort of chronically guilty, that was sort of simmering away. My whole reality was guilt. When I was in a bar, I shouldn't be here because I should feel this much guilt. Where every human experience and enjoyable day was now tarnished in my mind, where I'd catastrophized it into a higher level of guilt. And it needed deconstructing to develop that level of inner acceptance so that guilt couldn't carry on day after day in what felt like every second. So we're here to help you with that. And that's what we love doing, and looking at why you're stuck and how we can help you get unstuck.